First speech tonight will be entitled, Welcome to the NYSA, Providing Opportunities for Youth. It'll be given by Mike Davis, who is a business owner, a high school softball coach, and is president of the National Youth Sports Association, a 501c3 nonprofit charity helping to provide sports opportunities where they are needed and for youth who may not be able to afford to advance their skills. Recently, the NYSA helped send a young lady to an elite softball camp in Columbus, Georgia. Joining Mike tonight is Vanessa Shockley, a softball player who has just finished her freshman year at Western High School in Anaheim. Her trip to Georgia was special for her in many ways. She's here with Coach Mike to tell her story and to tell you how you can help other young people find opportunity that might otherwise pass them by. Help me welcome up to the lectern, Mike Davis.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I want to ask you right now, how many of you have ever had a dream when you were a kid? I want to tell you a story. Story about a little boy. He had a dream. He wanted to be a baseball player, right? So he would go outside in his backyard every day, and he'd take a ball, and he'd take his bat, and he'd toss the ball up in the air, and he'd swing, and he missed. He said, I am the greatest hitter that's ever lived. He tossed the ball up again, he'd swing, and he missed. I'm the greatest hitter that ever lived. He did this a couple more times. His dad was watching. Finally, his dad said, son, for the greatest hitter that ever lived, you don't look like you're doing too well. He says, you know what I just realized, Dad? I'm not the greatest hitter that ever lived. I'm the greatest pitcher that ever lived. That little boy had a dream. I had a dream when I was a kid about being a Major League Baseball player, and I used to go out in the backyard, and I'd roll up a pair of athletic socks for a ball because we only had so big of a yard, sometimes playing by myself, sometimes with friends. We'd pretend we were Mickey Mantle or Whitey Ford or whoever the star players were. We had a dream. My dad let me know early that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. And I played a little league, but I don't remember very much about it. Sports is important, I believe, because it provides the educational values for our kids that they may not learn in school, in their academics. Teamwork, goal setting, self-confidence, perseverance, fairness, all these good things we all know about. But what can we do to help the kids have their dreams? 4 years ago, a friend of mine alerted me to the fact that the Downey Unified School District had decided to cut sports out of their middle schools. Some people weren't very happy about it. It was a budget thing. They were going to do intramurals, but it was at the discretion of each principal if they wanted to do it. Well, what would this do? This would hinder some kids' opportunity to play at high school. The school's attitude was sort of like there's Little League, there's ponytail softball, there's Pop Warner football, there's whatever might be, so that they can learn their skills that they need otherwise. But it's still not the same as playing for school. I woke up one night about 2 in the morning, and that's when I had the vision for the NYSA, the National Youth Sports Association. How could we help fill that gap? One of our board members, a friend of mine named Dennis Dennehy, had been running an organization, a ministry, so to speak, in the Downey area called the Burnaby Center. The Burnaby Center had provided sports activities for the Little League School District, who had cut out their sports programs several years before. They would put on 3 or 4 sports a year, I think volleyball, basketball, football, and soccer, I think is what they would do. But the neat thing about this program is not only did they provide the sports, most of these young people went to high school at Santa Fe High, they would come back to coach and volunteer as referees and coaches in this league. So there was an extra payoff. They were giving back to the league that they enjoyed. They were learning how to go to the next level. About a year later, I was hired as the head softball coach at Western High School here in Anaheim. Not long after I was there, one of the other coaches told me, he said, Mike, we have a lot of very talented athletes here at this school, but because there was a lot of low-income families in the area, also because some of the culture a little bit, but they couldn't afford to do travel ball, to do club ball, have advanced lessons. And these are things that if you're not doing in a lot of high schools, you won't get on a team. And if you have a dream about playing in college, forget it. It's almost impossible. Not impossible, it could be happening, but it's very unlikely. The ticket today for a lot of our youth is the travel ball, is the baseball, or the club ball, is the advanced lessons. But that can add up to a lot of money. Ironically, it's funny that some parents, they say, spend more money getting their child to get that scholarship than the tuition would have cost. They could have just wrote a check out for the tuition and it had been cheaper. But it is what it is. People love their sports, and getting their child that scholarship is their dream, so to speak. A lot of times within reason, but sometimes unfortunately not. But what do we do to help those kids that can't afford all those extras? Private lessons can cost $30 to $40 an hour or more. Some travel teams could cost you a few $1,000s just to be on the team. That doesn't count your expenses to travel, to go to Arizona, to go to Nevada, to go wherever they're going to go for the tournaments. So this became a secondary mission for the NYSA. This last year, we had an opportunity to finally get going after all the planning and meetings and discussion that were going on. We had one small clinic a few years back. We really didn't get things off the ground like we wanted. This year we had an opportunity to do so. Teenagers have issues. We all know that, right? We were teenagers once. We had our own issues. We have our challenges. We got a lot of things we have to deal with. And then you have the culture shock of going from middle school to high school. And for some, it's easy, but for some others, it may not be so easy. This last year, Vanessa came to Western, was on my team, and she had a few issues just like any other teenager. My assistant coach, Coach Kim, and I, we challenged her to step her game up, to work on getting her grades up and do better. She's a smart young lady. Very friendly, gets along with others, very nice. She's a good ball player. Got a little me in her. Sometimes we want to be me on the team. We always say there's no I in team, but there is me in team. And we all experience that at different levels. You want to root for go ta, right? There's a me in there. You're going to have the me. But Vanessa did a great job, and I became aware of a camp from a coach that I had met several years back in one of the coaches' clinic. His name's Bobby Simpson. Bobby goes around the country and even out of the country putting on clinics, coaches' clinics, player clinics. He was an assistant coach and scout for the Kansas City Royals baseball team some years back. He was the head coach at Florida State for a few years. He had an elite softball camp this summer, and I told Coach Kim about it. I said, maybe Vanessa deserves a little reward and a little encouragement. Maybe this would be a ticket for her. Of course, it was in Columbus, Georgia. If you looked up airfare for Columbus, Georgia, it's only an hour and a half south of Atlanta. But it's almost twice as much to fly direct to Columbus as to go to Atlanta. So we had a few challenges of our own. We had to get a shuttle and everything. And we had to raise money for the camp. Were we going to be able to do it? Coach Kim started sending out emails to some of the teachers at school. I did some promotion through the NYSA. We collected some donations, and we were able to make this happen. A friend of mine said, why don't you just send her to a camp locally here that's a lot cheaper? Well, there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them was the other camp locally that he was talking about was not a single sport camp. It was multi-sports. But it also wasn't as focused of a camp. This was an elite player softball camp. And this young lady tonight, I think you're going to find, has the ability to be an elite player. I hope sometime you might get to come out and see her over the next year or two. I could tell you about her story all night long, but I think it's best if I let her tell some of it. So at this time, let's welcome Vanessa Shockey. Vanessa has been a foster child since she was 6 years old. Luckily, her grandparents were able to adopt her, and so now she's back with family, which is a plus in your life, right? But she loves softball. When did you start loving softball, Vanessa?
As I was little, watching my older sisters play.
When did you get serious?
Once I found out how serious it was, and going to travel ball team in All Stars, and going out there and seeing the big girls play with us.
So Vanessa had a dream. She liked the softball, right? What did you think when we asked you about going to this camp?
I was very surprised. I never knew someone cared so much to let me, to help me pay for something and go very far to see what I'm really made of.
Had you ever flown by yourself before?
Nope, never.
That was the other reason to choose the camp in Georgia, because it's not only a sports lesson, but there's a life lesson. Vanessa had to travel by herself both ways, and I think she did okay. You got there, you got back. We got a text message when she arrived. What did you think about it? You got there early, so you got to meet the coaches, or what do you think about the camp?
The camp was amazing. There's a lot of coaches from colleges just watching you, knowing what you're about, and teaching you different things, and it was a pretty cool camp.
One of the things Vanessa shared with me, that she wanted to know how good she was. Was she an elite softball player? What did you find out, Vanessa?
I was in the top 10 of that camp. I looked at everyone else. They were from different states as I was, and I was ranked in the top 10 of them that I put in my perspective.
You know what? The coaches shared your perspective. So I talked to Bobby a couple weeks later, this last week or so, and I said, Bobby, Vanessa shared with me what she took away from the camp. He says, I think she's about right. I think she's got it there. They do anything different in the camp that wasn't just softball?
They did backwards ball, and we had to put an engine together, a car engine, and they did a lot of different things that were cool.
What does the car engine have to do with softball?
Teamwork. You always have to have teamwork with a team. So putting a car engine together with the team gets you better with softball.
It was a pretty interesting connection. An associate that Bobby knows, another coach, was also a coach of this girls' team. That's what they compete in, is taking a car engine apart and putting it back together. And I guess they did it, I forget how fast, but they could do it pretty quick, couldn't they?
They were 6 minutes, their top time or something like that.
Completely tear down and put it back. Can you imagine that? Girls aren't supposed to be mechanics, are they? Vanessa, what did this camp mean to you? You found out you are as good as we think you could be, right? Did you learn anything else from there? Tell us a little bit. I'm going to give you the mic. Tell us a little bit about the camp.
The camp was very cool to be able to go out there and see what coaches are teaching you in college, and what I could learn by watching everyone else play and seeing what they do in other states differently from where I'm from. And the weather over there was really hot, and seeing the environment over there around it was very different. And there was a lot of college coaches asking for girls emails to see if they were ready to go to college, because some were older than me, seniors already. So it was a very good experience for me to go out there.
What you told me about one other thing at the camp, and my mind was slipping a little bit there. The one that you said you made a play that sort of surprised everybody, maybe even you.
I don't technically play first base or anything like that, but I was playing first base, and the college coaches were lined up on the side, and some girl threw the ball very short to me, so I dropped down and did the splits and caught the ball, and all the coaches right there clapping and everything, and I'm not a normal first baseman, so it's pretty surprising and happy for me.
The trip was worthwhile?
Yes, very.
Would you do it again?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Vanessa Shockey. She is the elite softball player. But she's come to help me tonight because we want to be able to help other players along the way have such opportunities for advanced skills. We also want to be able to provide training and clinics for kids that maybe haven't even started to play any sport, not just softball, basketball, baseball, track, whatever they want to do. Every year at the schools I've been at, I've got at least one or two or even sometimes three girls that have never played softball before, and they come out and they want to make the team. Now, fortunately for them, we don't have a whole bunch of kids out. High school sports numbers are down a little bit. But even with that, the average number of kids in most high schools is about 35 to 40% participation in athletics. At Western High School, we got maybe 25%. And again, this goes back to some of these kids have just not had the opportunity. So when they come out, I structure my program in a way that as long as they're willing to do the work and put the effort in, they have a chance to learn the game of softball. And we've got some pretty special young ladies that did it. Julie, who you know, 2 years ago when she came, couldn't throw the ball 60 feet. How's she throwing the ball now?
She's a catcher throwing the ball from here to way over there like an arm, like a cannon. A cannon.
And she has a cannon for an arm here. So tonight I'm asking for your help. Could you make a donation to the NYSA, to the National Youth Sports Association? Every dollar that we raise goes to help young people to advance their sports abilities or to learn sports if they want. And we want to provide more. I want to organize some clinics. I've been talking to some people. We need to get certain insurance requirements and other things. We want to be able to expand on this and move it forward so we can help more kids that maybe don't have that opportunity that even Vanessa's had. She's been lucky. She's had a travel coach she met that has helped the kids without worrying too much about the financial end of it. There's a few of those coaches out there. We want to hook up with more of those coaches as well. So I hope that you'll see what a neat thing we've got here, what we can do. You can be a part of this because the biggest thing I think that Vanessa took away there was self-confidence and a belief in herself. Has that gone up a little?
Very, a lot.
I'm looking to see. She was already a pretty good player last year. I can't wait to see what she does this year. Madam Toastmaster.